What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope everybody out there's having a splendid day. Feels kind of like a fake fall around here today on the homestead. It's Saturday here and it's kind of a little bit cool, breezy, overcast. Almost feels a little bit like fall, but I know we still got quite a few hot days left before we really get into fall. I think what we're getting is some of the breeze and clouds from that massive Hurricane Ida that's going through the Gulf right now. It's going to stay well west of us. We'll probably get a little rain from it, but our prayers are with you guys out there who are in the path or have been in the path by the time this video airs. So today we're going to be talking about what happens when a good thought out plan doesn't work. Old Hannibal Smith on the A-team used to say, I like it when a plan comes together. And I do like it when a plan comes together. But sometimes even the best laid out plans don't work and we have to go to plan B, C, D, sometimes even deeper than that. Behind me here we've got a cover crop of safflower, and I'm going to tell you in a little bit why I think that didn't really work. And because it didn't work, we got to go to plan B, maybe even plan C. But before we do that, I want to respond to a few comments we had several videos ago when we were talking about cover crop germination in our no-till plot. So several videos ago, I was talking about how the cover crop germination has been less than great in this no-till plot as opposed to my other traditional plots where we till it up, strow the seed, and rake it in. And there's several reasons for that, I believe. One is the top layer of this, where it's just compost, is pretty dry. The plants have to get the roots down there to really access that reservoir of moisture that is in this no-till plot here. So it's a lot more dry on the top than some of these other plots. And because we're not tilling it, it's not super fluffy. And when we rake it in or whatever, the seeds aren't kind of dropping or sinking down a whole lot. And so that results in less than great germination. And I think the easy solution to that is when we do plant cover crops in here, I think I just need to use my walk behind seeder and actually, drill them into the soil as opposed to broadcasting them on top. That'll take a little longer, but we'll get a lot better germination. We won't use near as much seed doing it that way. So I think that's the easy fix here. But on that video, we had several people comment that if you're doing no-till gardening, you don't need to cover crop. And that was interesting to me. And I've always kind of wondered why a lot of the gardeners on YouTube that are doing no-till stuff don't really cover crop. I don't know if that's because they don't think they need to, or a lack of information about cover cropping, or they don't see the benefits of it. There could be a lot of reasons why they're not doing it. I don't really know. But that kind of led me to thinking maybe a lot of people don't really understand why we're doing all this cover cropping. And it is something that you don't need to do. There's a lot of things we don't need to do in the garden. You could till up an area, plant some ochre right there, let it grow up with grass, and that ochre will grow just fine. You don't need to weed that ochre. But there's certain things we do so that it makes our gardening lives easier long term, and cover cropping is one of those things. So I think where the misconception occurs is the no-till community, not all of them, but some of them, maybe think that because you're no-till and the soil is covered, whether it be with another layer of compost or mulch or whatever, because the soil is already covered, that you don't need to cover it with a cover crop. But the cover crops do so much more than just cover the soil. Okay, number one, around here, they're great for erosion control. Now, my land here is pretty flat, but even if we get a really heavy rain or a tropical storm comes through and there's just compost here, it can really wash it out. Even if I've got mulch on top of it, even if I were using wood chips or straw or whatever and we get a heavy rain, it's still going to wash it out pretty good, and I'm going to have to go in there and re-rake it or whatever. So the cover crop keeps us from losing soil, keeps all the soil in the plots, keeps things from washing out, having little gullies in our plots. The other big things that they do have to do with pest control and also nutrient scavenging and nutrient retention. Now down here in the south, we have lots of pest and disease pressure. That's just something we fight in the garden. We're fortunate to be able to garden pretty much year round, but we're always fighting pests because they're always reproducing around here because it doesn't get really cold. The cover crops really help with that pest management. It helps kind of break those pest reproduction cycles, and it decreases our pest pressure over time as we continue to cover crop. It won't completely eliminate it, but it certainly alleviates our pest pressure, and that's one of the main reasons we do it. The other things I mentioned have to do with nutrients. So cover crops are nutrient scavengers because they put down roots way deeper than your vegetable plants can. Buckwheat, as an example, buckwheat is a great phosphorus scavenger. So it runs roots way down deeper than any vegetable you're going to plant, scavenges phosphorus from way down there. When you incorporate it into the soil, that phosphorus is then available to the next round of veggies that you're planting in that plot. There are other crops that are kind of nutrient storers. So sorghum sudan grass is a good example of that. So it is a nitrogen scavenger, but it also helps to just kind of hold the nitrogen in the plot. So whether you're doing no-till or not, you get some heavy rains, you're going to get some nutrient runoff. Doesn't matter what you've got there, mulch, compost, wood chips, whatever, you get heavy rains, you're getting nutrient runoff. But if we've got something like sorghum sudan grass there, it's grabbing all that excess nitrogen and storing it in that plant so it's not running off. And then when we break down that cover crop or incorporate that cover crop, that nitrogen is still there and available to the next round of plants. And lastly, of course, we've got nitrogen fixation, which is a nice benefit when we're planting some of these legume cover crops. Talking about something like sun hemp, the iron clay peas, the red ripper peas, and there's a lot of cool season nitrogen fixing cover crops out there as well. So there's tons of benefits to these cover crops than just covering the soil and suppressing weeds. That's a great benefit. There's so many other reasons to be doing it, and if you're not doing it, I would say give it a try. I don't try not to get too technical with this, and I know some of the technicalities can confuse people. I'm just trying to give you the reasons for why we do it. You don't have to get all into the technical details of it. You can just go strow a cover crop, mow it down when you're ready, and plant something else. But I just wanted you guys to understand kind of our thought process around here. So now back to this safflower here behind me, and I'll show you some close-ups in a minute of kind of how pitiful it looks. So we're always trying new combinations, new types of cover crops, whether it be warm season or cool season around here, just to experiment with different things and see how different things grow around here so we can show you guys, and if it works, you may want to try it as well. And the science out there says that mixing different cover crops together is the best thing for your soil, and we do a good bit of that as well. We combine different cover crops together, doing that in the no-till plot right now, and I'll show you the pea and sorghum cover crop we have that's doing really well. But when I'm trying a new cover crop, a lot of times I'll plant it by itself, just because I want to see the growth habit of it. I want to understand the growth habit of it, and then by seeing it by itself, I can say, okay, this would go well with this. If I paired it with this other cover crop, one wouldn't outcompete the other. They would flower or go to seed around the same time. They would mature around the same time. So I like to plant new ones by themselves at least one time, just to kind of understand them, and then I can, if I like them, really start incorporating them into a mixture. So here's a close-up of this safflower cover crop, and it's hard to find the safflower in there now. So we've got crabgrass popping up everywhere. We've got pigweed all in here. As you can see, there are the safflower plants right there. And they look really good to start off. Germinated pretty quick. This plot looked thick. And then they just started looking just terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible like this. And they could no longer outcompete these weeds. They wasn't providing any ground cover. And all of a sudden, we've just got a mess here. So why do we think this safflower cover crop started out so well, but now looks so terrible? Almost looks like it's just going to die any day now. Well, I think it has a lot to do with the humidity. Now, this is considered a warm season cover crop, but I guess it's not as tolerable of our conditions down here as other warm season cover crops like your field peas or your sorghum sudan grass, things like that. So this thing started looking really good. Like I said, germinated fast, started looking good. We had some good ground cover there. Just a few weeds in there, but really good ground cover. And then it struck off here with that August nasty, sticky humidity or whatever. And this stuff started looking pitiful, and it just kind of went downhill from there. Now, in other parts of the country, this may be a great summer cover crop. I don't know. If you live in an area where you don't have a lot of extreme humidity, this may do really, really well for you. I think down here, it's probably going to work better as a fall cover crop. It is somewhat frost tolerant. I can't remember the temperature to which it is frost tolerant. It's something in the low to mid 20s, I believe. I have to look at my resource manual for green cover seed. But down here, I think it would work much better once the temperature breaks a little bit in September. It's definitely not good for growing here in the middle of August. You could probably grow it late spring, early summer around here, but it just can't take this humidity we've been having around here. I also don't know that it is great or that great as a standalone cover crop, and that's why we grow it by itself. We can see, hey, can this thing stand on its own, or does it need to be in a mixture of sorts? I think it would probably do better mixed with something like sunflower or something that's going to be taller, and it could form kind of the bottom canopy there, and you have your sunflowers forming kind of a you know, higher layer there to give you a little more shading and to shade this stuff out a little bit. Heck, it may work with sunflowers in the middle of summer if it's shaded out a little bit like that. I don't know. We're going to continue experimenting with it. I still have 5 pounds or so left, and I'm not done trying, and I'm not writing it off completely because I know it has some really good benefits. I just got to figure out how it works into my program down here. So the safflower, we got some, you know, got some more experimentation to do with that one. Let me go show you my home run cover crop combination for summer. So my ultimate summer cover crop combination is this right here. Combination of sorghum sudan grass and then some kind of field pea. I'll talk about that in a minute, why I don't think it really matters what type of field pea you plant. But here we've got red ripper peas with the sorghum sudan grass, and you can see the amount of ground cover we have out there. We ain't got to worry about any weeds popping up and thriving through there. We have complete cover, so much biomass out there. In some spots the peas are thriving a little better than others, in some spots the sorghum's thriving a little better than others, but we've got complete cover there, and this combination just grows so fast and can take the heat and does really well. Now, one thing that will happen with this sorghum sudan grass, we get some really heavy rains, it will kind of beat it down a little bit. It won't break it or kill it. It just kind of looked like a dog walked through there for a few days. But it usually recover and stand back up. So it's just now recovering. We had some heavy rains earlier this week, kind of beat it down a little bit. But I don't mind it getting beat down a little bit because it's actually letting some of those peas come up through there and letting those peas continue to thrive. So we're getting nitrogen fixation from the peas. We're getting nitrogen scavenging and storage from the sorghum sudan grass. Tons of erosion control, tons of weed suppression, all kind of good stuff here. So I mentioned I'm not sure it matters what type of field peas you plant with the sorghum sudan grass. And the jury's still out on that a little bit. So last year in this plot, I planted sorghum sudan grass just like you see here, but I used iron clay peas. And that worked really well. The peas grew fast initially, but eventually the sorghum kind of outcompeted them because it gets taller than the peas do. But it worked really well as a combination. We got maximal growth out of both components of that cover crop mixture. Here we've got red ripper peas, and this is a climbing field pea. And so what I was thinking here is maybe these red rippers will climb along the sorghum sudan grass stalks and produce even more biomass than something like an iron clay pea. And I'm not seeing a whole lot of it yet, but just a little bit here on the edges. I don't know if you can see this right here, but that pea tendril is wrapped around that stalk of the sorghum sudan grass pretty good. The peas are thriving a little more on the edge of the plot here, I guess where they can get a little bit of sun. But we're starting to see them climb up there a little bit. I don't know if they'll do this over the whole plot or not, but it looks a little bit promising. We'll just have to see long term how it looks. It may not matter. You could probably do any kind of field pea in here. We'll just see if these things actually do climb all over this stuff or not. So since that is my home run combination currently, that's what we're about to put right here. This is where we had all our flowers and our perennial herbs. And we got that cleaned up, got the drip tape up, we got it cultivated, and it's ready for cover crop. Now it took me a little longer to get this plot turned over and ready for cover crop than it does usually. That's mainly because of the flowers we had here. So instead of going through and pulling up all those flowers we had, some were still producing, but some were looking pretty pitiful, and it was just time to, you know, turn over the whole thing. A lot of those flowers we had in here will reseed easily. Zinnias, the marigolds, the celosia especially will reseed easily. So I was able to kill everything pretty easily just by coming in here with the mower. I mowed it one time on, you know, kind of a high setting, then I just set the deck on the ground and scalped it. And that pretty much killed everything. But I knew a lot of those flowers reseed easily, and I didn't want to turn around and try to plant into it immediately, because I knew there were probably a lot of flower seeds on the ground that could germinate and incorporate into that cover crop. Not that that was a bad thing, but I wanted to go ahead and let those flower seeds germinate, and then we'd kill them once we tilled this thing up to get it ready for a cover crop. So that's what I did. After I scalped it with the mower, I left it here for about 2 weeks. We had plenty of rain during that time. I saw a lot of those volunteer flowers and stuff popping up in there. So we kind of let all those seeds germinate, and then when we tilled this to get it ready for planting the cover crop, it kills those off, and we should have a fairly low weed seed bank we're working with now. So let me go grab some sorghum sudan grass and some red ripper peas, and we're going to duplicate right here what I showed you in that other plot. So I got me some sorghum sudan grass seeds right here. I just have a 50-pound bag of those in a trash can underneath the barn. I just scooped out a few scoops. I don't know how much I got here, but it's enough. Probably not quite 5 pounds, something like that. And we got our red ripper pea seeds here. This is what I have left of the bag that I bought. I think I bought a 10, 15-pound bag of that. So I got plenty of those here, several pounds of those. Got my inoculant here mixed up, so we're going to pour that in there anytime we're doing a nitrogen fixing cover crop. We got where we like to add that inoculant, so we just kind of stir that mixture all on those peas. When you're mixing an inoculant like this, make sure you plant them right after you mix it. Don't mix this up and let it sit. The inoculant is most effective when it's immediately put into the soil. So got those mixed up, we'll go strow some seeds.
I came from the mud, there's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon.
All right, we got it in. Now I don't know how much rain we're going to get from Ida. I'm sure a little bit, but I don't know, it might be another day or so before we get any. So I'm probably going to go ahead and water this in this afternoon. I've got the hose reeled up right now. I'll cut the grass and then I'll throw some water on it later this afternoon. Go ahead and get that germination up and going. The way we do it here, when we till the soil, strow the seeds by hand and rake it in, it's just the best way for us to do it with the equipment we have. I've did lots of testing over the years of different ways to plant the cover crops, and this is the quickest, most effective way to do it given the equipment we have here on our homestead. It may be completely different than you if you got a tractor or whatever equipment you have, but this is the best way to do it for us. Now I did find some leftover sunflower seeds from last year in the fridge, and I thought, heck, why don't we try adding those in the mix? So I did strow a few sunflowers out there. We'll see if they can make it up through all that other vegetation or not. I figured it was worth a try. Now I almost forgot, we started this video talking about what do we do when a plan doesn't work. I forgot to tell you what our plan is for where that safflower didn't work. So since our safflower started dying or looking pitiful, and let all those weeds thrive in there, we got a lot of weeds in here going to seed, so we've got a lot of extra contributions to our weed seed bank that we didn't necessarily want. Now if that safflower would have stayed strong, those weeds wouldn't have came up through there and thrived, and we wouldn't have got those contributions to the weed seed bank. But now we do have a lot more weed seeds in this plot than what we started with when we planted that safflower. It is what it is. It's not a great thing to happen, but it happened. So what am I going to do? I'm going to come in here and I'm going to mow this. I'm going to scalp it to the ground. Mow it so close that I can then come in here and wheel hoe this on a regular basis and work on my weed seed bank. Now I could tarp this plot, but it's a pretty big plot, and I don't think I have a tarp big enough for this space right here. Most of my tarps are like 30 by 35 for those plots like we just did there. So I don't have a tarp big enough for this, but that would be an option. What I'm going to do is just some frequent shallow cultivation and really work on that weed seed bank. So we'll scalp it down, kill all the vegetation, and then I'll just come through here with the wheel hoe probably once, maybe even twice a week. And so that will let those weed seeds germinate there as we get some rain. And then once they germinate, we'll kill them with the wheel hoe. We're just disturbing that top inch or so of soil there, so it's not like we're over cultivating the ground and really affecting a lot of stuff, you know, down deep in the soil. We're just going to aggravate it on that top layer there. Let those weed seeds that have now been added germinate, kill them off once they germinate, and hopefully work on our weed seed bank, get it back down, get it back manageable. The last thing we want to do is till in all these weed seeds here. So we're going to leave them on top of the soil, let them germinate, and kill them. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on what I said about the cover cropping, even if you're doing no-till. You agree or disagree with that? And if you are a cover cropper like myself, and you have a home run mixture or a home run singular cover crop for the warm season, definitely tell me about that in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, ring the bell, like, and share, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.
Oh, farewell, by the beauty of your life.